One of the questions that I get asked so often is how long did it take you to stop binge eating? And the reality is I don't know. I don't know how long it took me to stop binge eating because the reality is when it was 2019 and I was ready to heal my relationship with food. Like I was so done with dieting. I didn't want to track a single almond ever again. I was done with like all these diets and being told how much to eat. Like I was so done with that. I knew that I was out of control with food. I knew that I was thinking about food all day long. I knew that I was very impulsive with food and out of control. And so I knew that the main priority for me was healing my relationship with food. There was no other alternative. So I never gave myself a timeline. I never said, Lorna, you better be binge free by X amount of months or X amount of years. To be honest, I never once thought about the timeline. So for me, I didn't spend my time stressing over how long it was going to take me. Instead, what I did was every single day I focused my time, my energy, my attention into learning how to get rid of my urges, how to actually stop eating when I was full, how to be able to control myself around sweets. I started changing the way that I was speaking to myself. Of course, after a binge, I'd be frustrated, right? Just like anyone, right? I'm sure you probably get frustrated after a binge. You're like, why did I do that? Like I literally remember like getting so frustrated because I knew the moment that the urge came on, I was like, I'm gonna binge. I'm gonna binge. I'm gonna regret it. I know I'm gonna regret it. Like literally every single time that I would start a binge, I'm like, I know I'm gonna regret this. I know like right now it feels like this is like the best thing that I could do for myself. Like I need to do it, but I know that I'm going to regret it. I know I'm going to feel bloated. I know I'm going to feel uncomfortable in my own skin. Like I knew that. And that's why sometimes you're so frustrated after a binge because you know the consequences. You know how shitty you feel afterwards, but it's like in that moment, you don't even care. Right. So what I started doing was I reminded myself like this is actually part of the process. I didn't doubt my ability to conquer. I reminded myself like Lorna, you're resilient, you are strong, like and something that you can even remind yourself as well too is you have been through so many hard things in your life. And binge eating is not a walk in the park, right? But if you've been through so many more challenging things in your life, like you're going to conquer binge eating. You absolutely are. Don't worry about timeline. Does it really matter if it takes you 3 months, 6 months, a year? Like, does it really matter how long it's going to take you? For me, it didn't matter. I literally just showed up for myself every single day. Even after a binge or even on the days where I didn't feel comfortable in my own skin. If you only feel good or you only show up on those days where you don't binge, your results are going to match that. So a lot of the times when people come to me and they're like, Lorna, I've been able to have a few binge-free days or a few binge-free weeks, but I always revert back to old habits. And that is because are you only showing up for yourself on the quote unquote good days where you're not binging or you're feeling good in your own skin? It's easy to show up on those days. It's easy to believe in yourself when you haven't binged in a few days. It's easy to be like, I got this. I believe in myself. But how about the days where you binge, you have a binge day and then you binge the next day and then you binge the next day and you're uncomfortable in your own skin? Do you then believe in yourself? Do you still continue to show up for yourself? You're allowed to be frustrated. Like I said, on those days where I would binge, I'd be so mad at myself. I'd be like, Lorna, what the heck? Like, you know, you're going to regret this. Like, you know, you feel like crap afterwards. Like, why are you still doing it? But the next day, I spoke to myself in a kind manner. I didn't, as much as I wanted to restrict the next day, I made sure that I fueled myself. I changed the way that I was speaking to myself. I didn't say, oh, see, look, I'm never going to conquer binge eating. I'm like, okay, this is part of the process. I'm not proud of myself, but it's okay. Right? So there's that. Again, releasing the timelines, not worrying about when. Something else though is you can't compare your journey to anyone else's journey. Because sometimes it's very easy to look at somebody and be like, oh my gosh, like, she's had like a binge free month and I'm still binging, or she's getting results so much faster, or wow, like she's able to eat this without spiraling out of control. Like, what's wrong with me? But everyone's journey is different, right? So you might have gut issues, you might have PCOS, you might have hypothyroidism, you might have certain other health issues or, you know, food sensitivities where you need to be mindful of certain foods. That was for me in my journey. I couldn't just eat like whatever I wanted like anyone else. And that didn't mean that I couldn't conquer binge eating. It just meant that like my version of food freedom would look different than other people's. But sometimes I would see people who I felt would be progressing faster than me. And it's so easy to get in comparison mode. Like, why can she do it and why can't I? Right? But I kept on reminding myself, like, this is my journey. Right? And again, what's the alternative? For me, there was no alternative going back to dieting. I was fed up and done with dieting. I spent 10 years of my life yo-yo dieting. All I knew was diets for the majority of my life. So that was not an option. It was not an option for me to go back to dieting. So if it was not an option for me to go back to dieting because I knew dieting didn't work. I knew it made me more obsessed with food. I know it made me more obsessed with my body. It was impacting my mental health. I knew I didn't want to go down that road. The only option for me was to focus on healing my relationship with food. And so I knew that this was a journey. And I took it one day at a time. I did not want a quick fix. I did not want a quick fix. I literally did not even care if it took me longer to heal my relationship with food because that's what I wanted. Like, I wanted freedom for the rest of my life. I didn't want to just have a few good days with food. Like, I wanted to learn how to sustainably eat consistently, long term, right? I wanted something sustainable because whenever I was on these diets, it was always like, do well for a short time, binge, do well for a short time, binge, do well for a short time, binge, do well for a short. And I'm like, I did not want that. I just wanted to be consistent. And I thought long term because I was thinking like, I want to travel the world with my husband and go to all these different places and not be worried about what food I was going to eat. I've always imagined like just like waking up on a Sunday morning and making waffles or making pancakes with Andrew and not having to weigh out the almond butter or not be worried if I'm putting syrup on it. Like to me, that was so exciting and that was the freedom that I was longing for. So if I wanted that sustainably for the rest of my life, I wasn't worried if it was going to take me time. Like I was willing to put in the work. I did put in the work and that's why I am binge free. And for you, like you are going to conquer. One of my older mentors used to say it to me all the time, like, it's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when you're going to conquer. And I'm like, I repeated that to myself over and over and over again. It's not like, am I going to conquer or am I not? It's like you are, but when? That's going to differ from person to person, right? So for you right now, like, I have no doubt in my mind that you're going to conquer binge eating. Even when clients come to work with me and I'm like, I have no doubt in my mind that you're going to conquer. Because you guys, you have to remember, I've been through this journey. I know what's required. So If I can do it, I'm like, I have no doubt in my mind you can do it. It's not a matter of are you going to or are you not? It's just a matter of when. It's literally just a matter of when. And if you can remind yourself of that, you're not going to be spending time stressing over the timeline. You're going to show up every single day and take action like you're going to conquer binge eating, because you absolutely are. 1,000%. If you knew right now that you were 100% going to conquer binge eating, you would show up differently for yourself. You would implement the tools. You would continue to show up. You wouldn't beat yourself up after binge. You're like, "Well, I'm going to conquer." Right? Like, you know you're going to conquer. Deep down, you know in your heart, you did not come here to be spending all day feeling controlled by your urges, thinking about food all day long, spending hours in the kitchen, eating until you're physically sick. Like, you know deep down that that's not what you're here to do. So you have to just continue to show up, take it one step at a time. Showing up every single day and not giving up. The reason I am literally binge free today is because I didn't give up. Giving up is just not an option. I was even talking to one of my clients inside of the academy, and she was like, so she worked with me for 4 months, and we're working together a little bit more. So I think it's been maybe 6 months maybe. And she's like, I'm experiencing some wins that I never even thought was possible. And she's like, imagine if I was just like, oh, this is just going to be another thing that doesn't work. She would have given up a long time ago and she wouldn't have experienced the freedom. Imagine if like 2 months in, she was like, oh, well, like I'm still having like nighttime. I'm still like snacking at night when I know I'm not hungry. Like, oh, this isn't going to work. And she just like threw in the towel and she just stopped. She wouldn't be here today where she's experiencing all these wins. She even posted she even posted a win in our group chat. I mean, she's always like posting all these incredible wins. Um, let me see if I can. Oh, anyway, she just has all these wins. Like, she even said here, like, I'm feeling the truth and power of Lorna's words about stopping binge eating, how it feels better than being on a diet binge cycle. I'm not at my ideal weight, but having binge-free days feels way better. Like, she's having binge-free days, binge-free weeks, and like that just feels so much better than being stuck in the diet binge cycle. And she's like, I don't have any desire of going back there because it hasn't worked for me. Like, if it worked for me, I wouldn't be here. So she's like, I know that I have to trust the process. I know that I have to just show up for myself. This client in my academy is literally so incredible. Like, she literally shows up for herself. We're in completely different time zones. I'm in Canada. She's in Australia. She shows up. She asks her questions. She implements the tools. She's putting in the work and she's trusting the process. But imagine if at like 1 month she was like, "Oh, well, I'm not binge free yet, so like it's probably not going to work." And she just like stopped showing up. She would not be here today. Imagine if I did that. Because for me, my results didn't come in like a week or a month, right? Like, you got to put in the work and it's going to take time. And so imagine if I was like, oh, well, it's not going to work. Not only would I not be binge free today, I wouldn't have maintained a binge free life for 4 years, but I wouldn't be helping all of you. I got here because I never gave up. The clients that I work with who conquer binge eating, they just simply don't give up. Like, it's literally just not an option. It's not an option. You need to trust yourself and just slow down and lean into your heart that knows that you can do this, that you're going to conquer binge eating. When you have the confidence that you can stop your binge eating, you can have control around trigger foods. You're literally not even going to care about the timeline because you're like, I'm on my way. I'm on my way. So commit to the process. Show up for yourself every day. Get the support that you know you need, so you're not trying to figure this out on your own. Join my community of other women who are going to cheer you on and support you every step of the way, where you're in constant momentum so you can keep on going and have those binge-free days. Celebrate those moments where you haven't binged in a week, in a month, in a few months. Repeat phrases to yourself like, I am a badass, I can do hard things. And when you do this and you start showing up for yourself and you have incredible progress, again, time is going to go by and you're like, whoa, I can't even believe I had some chocolate without feeling guilty. I can't even believe I was able to leave food on my plate at the restaurant and the food was so good, but I didn't even have the pull to like finish my plate. Like, you just experience these wins. You're not worried about when. When you don't trust yourself, you're like, I need results tomorrow. When you trust yourself, you don't worry about the timeline because you're like, I know I'm going to do it. Deep down in my heart, like, yes, there was a part of me that was like, I don't know how the heck I'm going to do this. But there was also a part of me that's like, yeah, but Lorna, you always figure things out. Like, you get the right support, you put in the work, like, you're ambitious, you're determined, like, you're going to make this work. I just never gave up on myself. I never gave up on myself. You are going to conquer binge eating. You are strong. You are resilient. Focus on your journey. Don't get trapped up into comparison mode or how long did it take for her or how long is it going to take for me? Like, you don't want a quick fix. You're here because you want to sustainably end binge eating for good. And you know that. You don't want a quick fix. So stop rushing the timeline and get excited for what's to come, like traveling the world with your family without stressing about the food, making breakfast for your family and having the waffles and the pancakes and the bacon and the eggs and literally not worrying about having to weigh anything out. Being the best example to your children or your future children, like, that is literally worth everything. That is worth everything. So slow down, trust yourself, know you're going to conquer binge eating. And when you do this and you keep showing up for yourself and you're making incredible progress, you're not going to worry about how long it's going to take you because you're literally too busy living your dream life, being present with your family and being decisive with your food choices that you're like, it actually doesn't even matter. Like, I'm feeling so good around food. And this is truly what it's all about. So release the timelines. You are going to absolutely get there one step at a time, the right support, the right community, learning the tools, implementing the tools, showing up for yourself, taking action every single day because you are absolutely going to get there.